All right, well, let's get into this, guys. Second episode, really, second full episode of our Lions Lounge. So, again, I guess for the viewers out there, welcome into the lounge. I am one of the hosts, many hosts right now, which is pretty cool. Of the Lions Lounge. My name's Tyler, so welcome in again, and I'll let the other guys introduce themselves.
All right, I'm Sam, and I decided to do this with Tyler, and I went ahead and brought in my brother, Jack.
How's it going, everybody?
Yeah, well, this is exciting. We're kind of building off last week's episode, so just to kind of do a quick recap for everybody out there that may not have caught that episode. So, one, please go check that episode out. But we pretty much hit home on everything offense for the draft. We might have spoke on a few defensive players and things like that, if I'm not mistaken, guys. But so there's quite a few topics that we talked about regarding the free agency, the draft, and the coaching staff in that episode. So what we wanted to do, because that time pretty much ran pretty long on that, we wanted to capture the defense on this one, and then maybe any resulting thoughts that come from that. So yeah, let's kick it away, guys. What do you think?
So I found an article, I believe it was from Pride of Detroit, and I know this, I think, kind of starts or kicks off the conversation in regards to what our defense is going to look like. So it's more than likely it's either going to be a 3-4 or a 3-3-5. And what they had of an image of when they were looking at what the Rams ran for their defense was that Flowers and Brockers would be on the line on the outside with Pensini in the middle. And then for our linebackers, it would be Jamie Collins at the Mike, Romeo being the pass rushing linebacker, Julian being the hybrid will linebacker. And then you would have Nick Williams, Deshaun Hand coming in for Brockers as well. So just to give maybe a starting point of looking for potential depth signings through the draft, or even finding some upgrades whenever possible.
Yeah, and I kind of saw that too. It was the 3-3-5 was an interesting setup. It was one of those things that we don't normally see, at least in the defenses that we've ran. We've had those hybrid 4-3s with the wide 9 on the line. We saw this multi-defense, whatever you want to call it. You can't really even call it a 3-4. I don't even know if it was like a 46 defense or something like that. Not really sure. They just had everything out there this last season. So this one's pretty good. Either the 3-4, the 3-3-5, or even throwing some of those 4-3s in there's not too bad. So I think we've got at least the front 7 there kind of figured out. The back side, what do you think? Do you think they add any more with the DBs out there? I know we've added Cornelder. We talked a little bit, I think, about him last week, and then they just added the safety out of Buffalo. Was it Dean? What was his last name? Marlowe. Thank you. Which I saw a couple highlights on him. So I think that's a pretty good depth signing, honestly. Do I think he supplants Harris back there? Probably not, but at least at the moment when you see the depth chart. But so what do you think? Do you think they attack anything more in free agency with the backside there, or do you think they hit that mainly in the draft?
I think the only other person I think that we should look at is Hooker, Malik Hooker from the Colts. He has had an injury 3 seasons, I think, in a row, besides his rookie season, which he played the full length. I think you just do another 1-year deal, probably about like a couple million. Try to see if he's got anything left. If he gets injured, then so be it. But if we go ahead and look into the draft, I think we have multiple choices to choose from with safeties or even cornerbacks. There's just too many to choose from.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're stepping on all the right stones there for sure, because I like what I see from Hooker too. I mean, it's kind of a tough love that he's got to go through all those injuries. And I mean, we've had those players too, to where they just can't stay on the field. And the best one that comes to mind is Deshaun Hand, because he's got all the talent in the world, but if he can't get on the field, what good is he to us or any team at that matter, or even himself? So yeah, I like the idea of bringing in Hooker for a cheap deal. And obviously to me, it sounds like we could do it because look at the contracts that they've been signing. I mean, we talked on it a little bit again last week with Disner. I mean, he's just been brilliant on the math that he's throwing out there on these contracts to kind of help us out through the time. I think I saw something, forget who posted it, but the 2 DBs that we just signed, I thought it was like $205,000 the cap count this year for just both of those guys. And I'm like, man, oh man, this is who's signing for this stuff? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. They see something here and I'm kind of riding along with it. It's exciting for sure. I agree with both of you. I think you might take a look at some of the free agents that might be out there. I'd have to double check to see a couple of the other ones that are out there, but I really think they're going to hit a couple spots in the draft. I really do. I think they look safety early. Obviously the early rounds there in the second round, and if you can snatch a couple up from a trade, possibly a trade down in the first, but the corner I would probably take right away in the second might be Asante Samuel if he's still there. But, safety, corner, I think they hit, each of those places at least once. But I think corner, you could probably see a couple.
Definitely. I think there's a lot of good picks in the defensive positions, especially in the early to mid rounds. There's been a couple of articles already in regards to who may be available each round as well. I know you had mentioned Richie Grant for safety last show, and being able, I think he would be a great addition. You combine him with Aaron Robinson, even from UCF, as well, his teammate being able to go and put a good tandem together. But I think we can definitely get younger and find some good positions early on in the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what's kind of cool about this thing is because you don't know where they're going to go. And, we could pretty much guess, in years past that, we have these extreme needs and they have these awesome players that are right out there. So you could pretty much guess who they're going to take. But this year, hey, I'm open to anything on the table. I was in a discussion earlier today, and I think Sam, he was kind of in on that conversation. And, I'm going to flip really quickly to the offense, but he was arguing basically that, we should be taking a quarterback at 7. And we'd be silly not to. Now, I'm not disagreeing with that because I'm going with the gut feel with these guys. We don't know what they're going to do. But I basically came back and said, well, why would we do that when you have a 26-year-old proven quarterback that is basically a 2 to 3 year rental? I mean, it's a lot of money. I'm not going to put that it's not, I don't want to say that lightly, but why wouldn't you skip quarterback this draft, build around? I mean, especially if there's offensive linemen sitting right there. If you get a pass catcher, I'm going to call it pass catcher because we really don't know if, what you want to call Pitts at this point, but physical freak of nature, I guess, is one. But, you can go those guys, or you can trade back and you can get multiple players. If you can get back in early, maybe you use your assets that you have from next year or the year after and move back in to grab a guy that is going to solidify something on your offense. So we know that's a little bit further along, at least player wise or personnel wise at this point. But the argument there was why take that on a quarterback you're probably not going to play for at least 2 years when you can trade back and get 3, 4 picks later on, depending on who comes up to snatch that 7th pick. So yeah, I mean, it's intriguing to have quarterback at 7, especially if one's sitting there. But if your guy, I guess I'm trying to say is if your guy is a quarterback, you got to take him. But in my opinion, I'm skipping quarterback probably until the 4th or 5th round, if you even take one this year. There's a couple sneaky ones there that I'd like to take, but especially if you can pick up another draft pick, because it's almost like playing with house money at that point. But I would build through this draft, the next draft, and one after that, and set yourself up to potentially have a plug and play quarterback. And guess what? If Goff plays well those 2 to 3 years, you don't need a quarterback. So That's just my opinion, but he wasn't seeing that. And that's his opinion. And I respect that too. But it was just one of those things you got to look at. Okay, where are you going to go with this thing? That's the exciting thing about this draft.
Yeah, and I honestly think that, once again, going back to our last conversation, when is the draft truly going to start? And I think it's once again reinforced at 4, because I see 1, 2, and 3 going quarterbacks. 4, it's up to the Falcons. Are they going to draft a quarterback? And then that leaves so many opportunities for skill position players. You still have Pitts, you still have Sewell, you still have Waddle and Smith and Chase.
Yeah.
Or do they go and trade back? And then that even changes it up as well. Are the Bengals going to get Sewell and anchor down their line to go and protect their quarterback? Or are they going to say, hey, you know what? I'd rather have Chase, and let's go and give him a skill position player. So when it comes time to the Lions drafting at 7, there could be a lot of opportunities. And if Sewell's still available, do the Chargers come in and go and draft them? If Fields is still available, and yes, Fields is very intriguing, but Ohio State doesn't produce the best NFL-ready quarterbacks. Could that be a potential trade where the Redskins, well, the football team, or
Do we need to edit that?
exactly, or the Patriots trade up? I mean, that's where I think it could be really enticing in that respect.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think what really solidified the quarterbacks going, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, probably more than likely 4, depending on who's there at 4. But with the trade of Sam Darnold, I mean, that just solidified that, hey, we're taking the guy that we want. We all kind of speculate who it is, and I think we have a pretty good idea. But yeah, you're right. Atlanta, what are they going to do? They're pretty much the wild card at this point. Are they going to stay home, pick? Are they going to trade out and somebody else pick quarterback, which makes everything else enticing? Do they not take a quarterback, which I don't think would be overly surprising, because Matt Ryan's not a slouch of a quarterback. Did he have an off year? Sure. But maybe they see next year's draft as a better shot to get somebody. We don't know those teams at this point, but yeah. What do the Bengals do? Do they go skill player? Do they go offensive line? My opinion, they probably should go offensive line and save their franchise quarterback. But it's kind of enticing to go, your college partner that you had last year, or 2 years ago. What do the Bengals do? That, again, we don't know. What are the other teams in front of it? What does Denver do? There's another wild card. Do they come up? Do they look at us? Do they know that maybe we're not going to take one? Carolina is probably okay not to take one now, that sort of thing. Or do they still take one? Do they trust Darnold? Who knows? So I think, my opinion, I want to trade back, get as many picks as we can get, and then start shoring up that defense throughout this draft, for sure. And I think if you can get into that, Denver range, what's Denver, 9?
Yeah.
Pick 9, I think. So you got Denver, then you go back to 15 with New England. You've got the football team in there. And I've seen some trades just in these mocks. You know how ridiculous these mocks can be, but with Arizona coming up to get Pitts. I've heard that one too.
And I've also seen Cowboys, because I guess Jerry Jones really likes what he sees in Pitts, and I've seen them trade up to number 4 with the Falcons.
Okay.
And that allows them to go have a ridiculous receiving core with Cooper, Lamb, and then possibly Pitts. That would give Dak an even better chance with Ezekiel Elliott still at running back. That has a good chance to actually win the crappy NFC East division.
Well, and they still have some decent players on that offensive line too. I mean, they've been hit pretty hard over the last year and a half, but they're not too bad there either. So yeah, I mean, that just opens us up to grab those defensive players that, in my opinion, really aren't worthy of a top 10 pick at this point. Maybe, I guess it depends on what you see of Parsons, I guess. And then maybe how far do you see some of these other guys that have just torn it up over the last few weeks too? How far do you see somebody grabbing them? Was it Jalen Davis? He's projected at 16 now. I think I saw in one of them too. And it's like, man, that guy has skyrocketed. I think we talked about it, Sam. He was what, 4th, 5th round?
Yeah, when we first started talking about it, he was around fourth, fifth, and then sooner or later he was up to round 2 and 3, and then I think last week he was all the way up into the mid first round.
Yeah, see, so that's what I'm most intrigued by. And if you can snatch 3 or 4 more picks, and especially maybe a couple next year, that's the way to go. And that's what I was trying to bring my point across. So, that's where you can look at your linebackers, your off the ball linebackers. You have I'm going to call him JOK because I can't pronounce his name half the time. But then you have the 2 linebackers. We have Collins, which we talked about a little bit last week. And then also with Davis sneaking in there as well. But then you have the guys too in the early second that do you even pick in the first? Could you see us trading all the way out of the first? I don't see it personally, but if you can snatch 2 or 3 more picks and get maybe 2 early second round picks, and you could snatch your cornerback, your safety, and a couple linebackers sitting there with Cox and Moses and stuff like that. I don't know. Would I like it? Probably not, because we're going to stay up and watch that whole first round and then be disappointed we don't pick. But
Yeah, I think it would be an ideal situation if we're able to go and trade back, get an extra day 2 pick along with maybe a first rounder or second rounder for next year's draft and continue to go and build through the draft. I completely agree with you that no defensive player should be drafted in the top 10 unless you're like Surtain, let's say, from Bama. And I don't think we're going the cornerback route round 1. So if we're able to trade back, let's say in the 14 through 16 area, maybe even 20, I think Parsons, JOK, Barmore, even from Bama, the edge rushers out of Georgia or Texas even. I think those are the guys that are at play if we are going to truly go defense and try to revamp the defense.
Yeah, I agree. I really like, is it Aziz? Is that his first name out of Georgia? Ojulari? Yeah. He's got some speed coming off. And it's hard to read too. If you can go look at some of these web pages out there that do the scouting reports on these players, if you go to one, they say this guy can't wrap up, and then you go to the other and go, he's a sure tackler. So it's kind of like, who do you believe? But you put that tape on, and both Georgia and Texas outside linebackers are those rush guys, and they could tear it up. They're very intriguing to me too. I think what I find myself looking at going is, we've got some guys on here that we really haven't been able to see play too much. Obviously with Okwara last year being hurt. And then, we really didn't have that other rush linebacker. I mean, they just got stood up. I mean, Collins maybe a couple times, and I think Ragland a couple times. But, Davis didn't produce. Tavai, we still don't know what they're going to do with him. I mean, he's not mentioned very often in any conversation you hear with the coaching staff. I mean, I think they threw him in the end the last time they mentioned something. But, so you hate to give up on some of those guys so quickly, but with the draft so full of these edge rushers, it's almost like, man, I could take 2 of these guys too. And, odd man out at that point. Sorry,
Well, and some of these edge rushers could be defensive ends or even outside linebackers as well. And yes. I think that's what's enticing, that we could actually see Romeo Okwara lined up as a linebacker, not as a defensive end, because of Brockers and everything else that we have going on at the line. And I think that's the uniqueness of re-signing Romeo, is because he can line up at the end. He can line up as a linebacker. He's a pressure guy. So I think that's where he's going to really excel at. Well, one person that Sam and I are really surprised is really slipping is Rousseau from Miami. What's happening to that guy?
Yeah. And you can't really dig anything up. I haven't been able to find anything. I mean, outside of the maybe what's his unknowns coming in from this last year, and maybe is his drive really there? I think that was one of them. Is he in every play? Is he not? But you could say that about everybody. I mean, even the professionals. I was sitting there yelling at Collins about 4 or 5 times one game specifically, because he'd be fantastic one play blowing it up, and then the next one he just kind of let it go by him, and I'm like, I don't want that kind of player. Me, but yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen anything alarming with Rousseau, but at least on the surface. So he might be one of those guys you could sneak in and snatch, and he could be a playmaker that you sorely need. At least that's what I know real quick.
And the thing is, yeah, people may grade them saying, oh, they can't wrap up or anything. But what I look at is stats and video footage from their games. And Rousseau, he had, I think, 17 and a half tackles 2 years ago. Or 17 and a half sacks.
Oh, okay.
And he was going up against Chase Young for most sacks in college football within a season. And of course, Chase Young went ahead and beat him for it. But if I think Rousseau, because I think he opted out this past season. If he played, I think he would have stayed in the first round. But I think because of all these players having great pro days, I think it's starting to push him out of the first round. He could be 31st or 32nd pick or one of the early picks in the second round. But if he's available at 41, if we never traded back in the first round, honestly, I wouldn't mind looking at him.
Well, yeah, and you got to look at what are those unknowns with the guys that we just mentioned on our line. I mean, you look at their versatility, and it's great. You know, with Hand being able to go outside, inside. You know, you've got Flowers to be able to go outside and inside. You've mentioned Okwara both being able to stay on the edge. I think he's worked on the inside a couple times. I mean, obviously he's on the smaller side, and he's dropped into coverage. And so is Flowers. I mean, Flowers can even do it. Now, would I let him do it all the time? No. But are they what's the availability of these guys? And that's the biggest thing. So if you can snatch and add to that line, I'm all for it, man. And if that talent is there at 41, I can't see him sneaking past those good teams too. You know, you look at Kansas City or the Buccaneers sitting there at the last two picks. And I mean, they're going to get a steal of somebody's going to slip, hence this guy potentially, and they're going to snatch somebody up that could be potentially top 15 type talent.
Now, I was thinking about this earlier this week. So if you go ahead and trade the 7th pick with either the Patriots or the Cardinals, it gives you at least 2 or 3 more picks in this draft. In recent drafts, like when the Ravens drafted Lamar Jackson, if I'm not mistaken, they drafted somebody already earlier in the draft, and then they traded back into the first round. So I would not be opposed to that if, for example, Zaven Collins is still available at, let's say, 28 through 32. I would not mind trading back into the first round because he reminds, like I already told you, Tyler, he reminds me so much of DeAndre Levy. And DeAndre Levy was basically the captain of our defense for, I don't know how many years, 5, 6 years. So if we can have another generational type talent of Zaven Collins revamping this new defense, I would not be opposed of trading back into the first round.
Yeah, and if you're only moving, what's that, maybe 10 spots back in, probably. I'd have to count it up if I did it wrong. Maybe 10, 11 spots. You probably wouldn't have to give up a ton. Yeah, obviously you'd have to lose the 41st pick and something else. I'm sure that draft and maybe some next year, but you already have the ammunition coming in from next year and the year after next, you know. And you don't see it a ton, but you could throw a player. Maybe there's a player in there that, you know, they are looking for.
Maybe even to buy.
He's shooing. No, but think about it though. I mean, what if Tampa Bay, with everybody returning, God, I don't know if you could swing this just with the dead money, but it might be worth it. Is Flowers? Could you dangle Flowers at him? That'd be a scary line with Sue going back and the guys that they had. With Barrett there. Yikes.
Maybe even trade him back to the Patriots.
They tend to want to come back for their guys. I think, aren't they still interested in Jimmy G?
Yeah, last time I checked.
They bring their coaches back, everything. So, yeah, I mean, don't know. Everything's on the table at that point. So, I don't know. I just, you look at this thing and it's just loaded with corners, safeties. There's some, I'm kind of disappointed with some of the edge rushers. I mean, they all seem very even to me outside of maybe the first handful. But on the back end there, I mean, you got the guys out of Pittsburgh. Either one, I think you're going to get the same player from what I see. You've got the guy from Texas and Georgia. They're both very similar players. So I don't think you can lose picking a late pick in there too. I think, yeah, Sam, I think I'm starting to agree with you too with Rousseau. I think, unless something else comes out on him, he might be a sexy pick at 2 at the second round if he's still there for sure. I mean, I was set on a safety corner there, but I mean, I guess it all depends on what you do at 1. But
Well, I really like how, if you want to say simplistic, they're trying to make the defense, because you even said it, how frustrating it was to go and see whether it was Collins, whether it was Harris, run right past the guy who had the ball. And it's like, wait, what? Like, he didn't know how to tackle or wrap up or at least get a hand on him, something. So I think that's where I think they're really going to revamp our defensive scheme and how they all play together, and especially our secondary. I think because of the signing of Glenn and Pheasant as our coaches, not only is Amani, but also Akuda, they're going to do a lot better next year. And I also think that we can find a cornerback or even a safety to go and push a Harris, to push an Okuda and say, hey, nothing is guaranteed in the NFL. You got to come with it every single play, every single year. And I think, once again, an Eric Stokes from Georgia, and Aaron Robinson, even a very, very late round of Rodarius Williams from Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
How many times did the Rams find somebody who was a diamond in the rough, like 4, 5, 6 round, and they were able to go and perform? I think you expect that all of these players are not only going to compete, but they're going to go and want to contribute right away.
Well, and then like you just said, I mean, knowing that the door is always open too. It's not just because we drafted Okuda in the first round, number 3 pick, does not mean, especially with this coaching staff, that he's safe by any means. I think the fan base is kind of split on Okuda anyways, which I think any first year cornerback outside of maybe the guys that played for the Saints, with was it Lattimore? I think he tore it up, and then there was a couple guys in there that were their first season. They did all right, but yeah, I agree with you. There's what is it? A couple coming out of Washington. There's a couple coming out of TCU. There's a couple at UCF. I mean, there's these guys that are a couple out of Georgia. Even was there 3 of them out of Georgia, I think, coming out. So yeah, I think you can find somebody in there that might not be a starter, at least in our eyes. But then you look at it, and the coaches are like, no, he could push for, our starting nickel. He could push for that 5th DB in our dime situation or whatever it may be. Yeah, I mean, look at Corn Elder. I mean, a lot of people don't know who Corn Elder is. I mean, I had to go back and look at it. I remember now, especially when we played him against Carolina in that horrid loss. But he made the play on the ball quite a few times in that game, and that's where I remember seeing his name. But then you go back and you look at what he missed only 2 tackles last year. I don't remember how many snaps he played, but that guy's going to probably become a pretty good starter for us. I really do believe that. And he probably will work himself into a second contract with us. But then you look kid out of Buffalo. It seems like everybody online in Buffalo really likes the guy. So yeah, I think you're right. I think you just stock up on all these guys, like the old school Pistons. I say old school, our old school probably, where they have no true number 1. It's everybody's everybody. And that's how we're going to win this thing. So, yeah, this is fun. This draft, I think we've said this multiple times. This draft can't get here soon enough.
Correct. And just one more thing, I think even Coach Campbell has already said it before by basically saying that, yes, we are finding 1-year deals for these players right now. And if they perform, great.
Yep.
If they come back to us for another contract, that's awesome. That's best case scenario. But if they're not able to, but they had a good year, then they just jump started their career and are going to be able to play for a couple more years. And if they don't pan out, then guess what? They're only 1 year contracts. So I think that really shows how even the leadership aspect of it, they're going to be in that clubhouse for 1 year.
Yeah.
They're going to be in that locker room. They're going to be able to continue to work with those younger guys and get them prepared, get them ready to go and compete even in 2022.
Oh yeah, I fully agree with that one completely. And you know what it does is if they do end up leaving just because there might be more money and more years on the table somewhere else, that speaks volumes, just as you said, to our coaching staff. But what does that do for your future recruiting? I mean, that's just going to look at somebody and go, okay, well, I can jumpstart my career with the Lions. If I don't get anywhere else, but I still play pretty well, I'll just stay with the Lions, I mean, because that's typically what happens. You play well, you're staying, unless you can get more money or it's a better situation elsewhere. And that'd be a true testament to this coaching staff that, you keep signing these 1-year deals, not just because you don't trust the player, but you're giving these guys the chance to, one, get some playing time where they may not elsewhere. But yet you're bringing them into a situation where they have that playing time available, because like I said, I don't think you're going to see, I'd love to, but I don't think you're going to see those cornerbacks playing 100% of the snaps early on in this season.
Oh.
They're going to look at who they have and who's going to play. Some of those guys, like a Flowers or an Okwara, obviously Okwara, you paid him the money, and Brockers, you paid him the money. They're going to play. But some of these other guys, no, I don't think so. I don't think they're as safe. You heard, I'm going to flip really quickly to the offensive side, and I don't want to belabor it too long, but like Vaitai, he's got a huge contract. He played last year. I can't say bad, can't say good, but disappointing, I think, is the word. But right now, he's not guaranteed the right tackle spot. He's starting out at guard, is what Campbell at least saw. So, I mean, he's getting the chance, but if somebody's there to push him, he's gone, in my opinion. He'll be your swing reserve, if you will. And honestly, I think Nelson does a better job at that than Vaitai does. So back to the defense. I don't know. Do you have anything else on the draft that you want to add? You guys had some players, I think, maybe not your first or second tier, but what do you think in the third tier or the third tier there?
Honestly, for the cornerbacks and safeties, I actually have a couple, and one I've liked ever since I started watching his film is Caden Stearns out of Texas. He, when I first started doing the mock drafts, he was projected like in the 6th round. Now he's projected to go in the 4th. And honestly, I like what he brings to the table. He's got good size. I think he's like 6'2". He's a great tackler. He's a heavy hitter. And honestly, I think he could be a starter after a couple of years. I think he would be the person, honestly, also next to Jacoby Stevens from LSU. Those two are my two favorite late round safety choices who honestly could be big playmakers for our defense in the future.
Yeah, I've been sitting here nodding my head like a bobblehead to both of those. Those are the guys that I've been kind of looking at as well. You look at what's the side they have, the size on Texas, the safety there, Stearns.
Yeah, I think he's 6'1", 6'2".
Yeah, see, and he can move too. So is he one, in your opinion, that can be that flip safety where if you want him to play deep center field, he could, and in the box, or would you leave him more at one position than the other?
Preferably whatever one he's able to play the best. Honestly, if he gives us the best outcome playing strong safety, then keep him at strong safety. If he's able to play both well, then basically you can put him wherever. I want to be able to put him where he'll benefit the most on our defense.
Sure.
And just to add on to that, I would like to go and see Walker move back to his initial position because he did so much better when he was at that position. He seemed out of place. He seemed lost this past season because he had never played that position before. So I agree with Sam. let's go and find players that, yeah, you may be able to cross train them in different positions or different parts of the scheme, but let's not lose where they're the strongest at the most.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was going with that question too, with where you see these guys playing. I mean, we always look at size like, oh, he's 6'2", 6'3". He needs to play a deep center field because he can go up and get the ball. No, some of those short guys. I mean, look at Glover Quinn. I mean, I keep going back to him. He could play both positions very, very well. Actually, he could play three positions very well because he could play corner as well. But I see a couple of those safeties in this draft that can sneak in and play that nickel or that nickel spot as well. But that was kind of my thought too, was you move Walker back to that deep safety route, bring him up in the box if you do need to, because he can. I agree with you. He played better the year before than the year we just saw. And then get that guy that's going to go up there and knock people around. The guy that's going to go up there and guard and actually can guard tight ends. I was really pulling for Will Harris there out of Boston College. I watching his tape, I mean, I think he was a little early maybe for his position, in my opinion. The coaching staff would tell you otherwise, but I think they even said that he was surprised that he was still there. Well, guess what? We had Paul Pasqualoni, who was a Boston College coach, and you know what I mean. So, but I've still been rooting for him. I mean, he's one of those guys, he'll play very well, but then he's one of those guys that looks lost. So you could tell he's kind of, in my opinion, more of a rotational special teams guy that can help us out here and there. So I feel like we really need to look for that strong safety box type player. And I honestly think that you're going to see a lot of those guys in this draft. His name's escaping me right now, but out of Oregon, the kid out of Oregon is really intriguing too. Javon Holland.
Yep.
So he's really intriguing to me too. The both safeties out of TCU are both intriguing. Like you mentioned before, Richie Grant, he's kind of my draft crush in this early stages. I think that's one of the positions that you really need to look at is a strong safety. And if you can get a backup safety in there as well, I think you have to look at it, unless you go look at the free agent list. I haven't pulled up the safeties, but is there anything else you guys want to hit on the draft? I mean, at least early on right now.
I just had one quick question for you in regards to linebackers. Do you have any comment on Nick Bolton from Missouri or Chaz Surratt from UNC? And the reason why I bring that up is because I think Surratt's like a diamond in the rough, late round, probably 4th or 5th round for him. I think he did very well at UNC. And Bolton slipped a little bit ever since his pro day and stuff. But there was an article recently about him being one of those biting kneecap type of guys that he could that they could see Campbell really falling in love with. So I just want to get your take on them.
Let me start with Bolton from Missouri. There, was he more of an inside backer there? Did he play that? Was he the quarterback of the defense there?
Yes.
So that's what I like about him. Surratt's kind of, like you said, a diamond in the rough, or where are you going to play him? Because he was converted safety, right? Or quarterback. Mm-hmm. Did he play offense too?
That was the quarterback. He was a former quarterback turned linebacker.
That's what I thought. Okay, because I'm thinking of Warner from Ohio State. He was safety.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so with UNC player Surratt, where do you play him? Is he going to be a big safety for you? Could be. Does he cover well? It looks like it. At UNC, he played pretty well. So I would say that I would probably take him more as an outside backer, but more for coverage. Now you could almost sneak up on people and let him blitz quarterback too, if you can open up those gaps for him. But I like Bolton a little bit better, just for the fact that he's got that leadership, middle of the defense type stuff. He can tackle quite well, actually, from what I see in some of his film. And his ball skills are okay too. So if it was me, I'm taking Bolton over Surratt, just because. Where do you put Surratt? Do you play him as a big safety? Can you run him back there as a safety and let him play on some of those tight ends and crossing routes and stuff like that? He's got the capability to do it. What I like about him too is he was a quarterback, so he knows how to I guess he knows how to read an offense at this point a little bit better, or has an idea of what the receiver could do based on tendencies. Maybe can he translate that to the big leagues? I don't know. Could you use him as an emergency quarterback if you needed to? Sure. So that's why I kind of like Golden Tate at the times, but yeah, I would probably favor Bolton over Surratt at this point. If it was me picking and it was between those two, I would take Bolton.
Now, there is one linebacker that honestly could go probably in the late 5th, 6th round that nobody really is talking about, and he's from Virginia, Charles Snowden.
I've heard of him.
He's got some size. He's 6'7", which is pretty big for a linebacker. He's able to blitz off the edge, which I would honestly put him. I think he fits better at the edge. But I watched film on him, and he can move for it being 6'7". He was able to get right through the line and go right after whoever had the ball. He's pretty quick. I think he ran 4.8, 4.7, something around there. And if you put him kind of like the role that Davis had for us within the past couple of years, go ahead and let him rush a couple times throughout the game. And I think he would definitely benefit from our coaches. And I think he would definitely be a pretty big playmaker for our defense.
Yeah, and that's one guy that I haven't really focused on. I'll have to take a look on him a little bit more, to be honest with you. The only West Virginia guy that I've really kind of taken a look at would be Fields there in the later rounds too for linebackers. And I think I'd have to look it up. I'll look it up later, but I think he's on the smaller side too. But we've had some good small linebackers too. I mean, we have Stephen Tulloch, Stephen Boyd. I mean, all those guys weren't very big. But
right.
I don't think size matters at this point, especially with the game that we're playing. So if you've got a linebacker who might be a little bit smaller but can run with these guys, who cares? And if they can cover. So again, you go back to your question about Surratt. I mean, I think you could go both ways depending on what you're looking for at the time that they're drafted. Yeah, that's a tough question. I from what I've seen now, I'll have to go back and double check again too. But yeah, I'm going to stick with my answer with Bolton over Surratt, but I think it would be what's your need for those guys? What are you going to do with them? Let's see. What do we want to transition to now? You got any more in the draft, guys? Any more maybe people you want to bring up that, I mean, you did with Snowden. I don't really have a ton of tape watching on him. Couple guys you mentioned in the secondary. We haven't really talked about it, but what do you think about the interior linemen?
Of course, we are very biased towards Tommy Tugiai putting up 40 reps on the bench press. I know, I see the Michigan.
That's all right. We're cool.
But I think he is one of them that I feel that will definitely solidify the inside of the line. And then you have Brockers and Flowers and the Aquaros coming off. I think that will definitely help. Even Nixon from Iowa, I think he's a name to go and watch. He was very physical when he played. Seemed like he always had a fire under him when he was playing. I think even a late rounder is Marvin Wilson from Florida State. Yes. I think he is very underrated at this point. He's had a couple good years back to back. But it would be intriguing to see if he was put in the right scheme and coached up well, could he be someone that could contribute pretty quick?
Yeah, it's been a while since Florida State's thrown out a defensive lineman, hasn't it? They haven't come out with any guys lately. There's a couple other guys too. I'm trying to picture or remember their name, but hold on, let me see if I can pull them up. You probably have them down too. Is it Sills out of West Virginia or West Virginia?
Yeah. Yes.
Let's see. Did I say Stills as the linebacker? No, I'm gonna have to watch this tape again. On the linebacker there too. There's a linebacker out of West Virginia, and for whatever reason, I'm thinking I called him Stills. But yeah, the defensive tackle out of there. I kind of like his film too. After watching his film, I kind of stayed away from the DT end of it just because at the time we still had Shelton. And he was one of those guys to where I get why they cut him, but he played pretty well when he was in there. He had kind of a bad break with his injury there, but he was playing pretty well. I think there was one game, who was it against, where he had that, straight up sack just right at the guy and he just whiffed. I mean, it was a typical Jared Davis move, but you know, you have Penasini and you have Deshaun Cornell. Yeah. Kid out of Ohio State from last year.
Correct.
Deshaun Hand in there, and even with Bryant, whom we talked about last week as well. So I was just kind of like, man, those guys are kind of rookies for me too, because you don't have a lot of tape on those guys. So I'm just like, yeah, I'll worry about DT later. But then I started looking at a few more. There's a kid out of NC State, I think, as well. And then some smaller school guys that have been putting up some pretty decent numbers as well.
And I've seen on Twitter, a lot of people are liking Milton Williams from Louisiana Tech.
Yeah, I saw him too.
To me, he's more of like a fifth, sixth round pick. Some people are even choosing him in the third or fourth just because of his pro day results. Honestly, I'm not impressed with him. I would rather have Stills from West Virginia.
Yep.
He's a smaller defensive tackle, but he can move. And I was able to watch some of his tape, and he got through that offensive line pretty quickly for being, I think he's only 265, which is pretty small for a defensive tackle.
Isn't he short too? Like 6'2"?
Yeah.
Something like that. So he's a smaller guy, but I don't pass on smaller guys after Aaron Donald for sure.
Right. And honestly, what I was thinking is how well we performed when we had the bigger defensive linemen with Sue and Fairley. 2014 is the last year I think that we actually had a top 10, top 5 defense. And what happens if we go ahead and bring that back? I think we can go ahead and bring back that magic of having those bigger defensive linemen clogging up those running holes to prevent the running backs getting through there. Allows the edge rushers to get the quarterback or to get the running back. I really think getting a bigger defensive lineman like Marvin Wilson or Bobby Brown from Texas A&M, I think they would go ahead and definitely help our defensive line for the future.
Yeah, and I agree. Yeah, you brought up that line. We had Williams and Ziggy Ansah, and you had Johnson, and you had those couple of those no-name guys. Taylor was in there. That was a pretty good defensive line. Obviously, it was anchored by those two DTs, those big beasts in the middle. And it's too bad that Fairley didn't get where the potential where he could have been. You know what I mean? He was pretty dominant in college as well. So yeah, I just pulled up some of the DTs here, and you got the kid out of UCLA as well, Osa. Don't ask me how to pronounce his last name. But he's one that, he's at 280 pounds. So again, he's kind of one of those, would you like to see him a little heavier? Maybe, but I think when you get those 280, 275, 278 pound guys, they can just squeak right through. And if you can get some attention to those guys, like you just said, it opens up the edge rushers and if you rush from the middle there, it's just the quickest way to the quarterback. So it's going to help out those DBs that we still don't know about yet. We love the two guys that are out there and hope that they can do pretty well, but behind that, we don't know. So then you look at Levi Onwuzurike. Why do they have to have names I can't pronounce? I'm sorry, guys. I'm butchering your guys' names here, but yes, from Washington. Again, another good prospect there. One I haven't followed up on, and I need to. Maybe you guys have. What about Tyler Shalvin from LSU?
He's definitely a bigger guy.
He's definitely a big body guy that can go and get after it. I think he's one of those that is great against the run. In regards to the pass, he's a little iffy on. But he competed in the SEC. And in regards to the football standards of college, that's one of the tougher conferences, and he held his own in that respect. So I think he's definitely one that could sneak up and be a steal later on in the draft.
Yeah, those are the ones we want. We want those steals. Speaking of steals, anybody else outside of your boy at Ohio State?
Not at the tackle position, but wanted to get your take on two of the edge rushers. Basham from Wake Forest and Roshi from Miami as well. Now you have the duo of Rousseau and Phillips, but Roshi's one of those, like I said earlier, about those edge rushers that could also be an outside linebacker if he's used correctly. And I think we're just looking after not only the big body guys like Sam said, but also speed. Let's get to the quarterback. Let's really pressure him. Let's rush a little bit more, so that way we can not let the quarterback set his feet and give our secondary a chance.
Yeah, that's the thing that we haven't seen in quite some time. Let me start with let me pull them up here because I've looked at so many over the last few weeks here. You like those stand-up edge guys, don't you? I think the kid out of Miami is a good prospect, only for the reason of kind of what you stated earlier with is it going to be a 3-3-5? Do you have that fourth edge guy, or do you have a 3-4-3 or a 3-4-5, I guess, and have that extra linebacker that can rush from the edge? Man, you're picking the good ones here, and I'm hoping people in the comment section here are throwing their thoughts too, that we could get into this. But let me pull up these guys just real quick, just so I can make sure here.
Asham's one that really came onto the scene during the Senior Bowl, I believe. He was one that I was not aware of until that time.
Right. And I haven't really been paying attention to Roushi too. Is that how you pronounce his last name as well?
Roche.
I've noticed him in the mock drafts, in the later rounds, but I didn't catch anything. I was hoping I could catch a lot of these guys that I didn't really pay too much attention to, hoping I could catch their pro days on YouTube because they don't televise too much anymore. So, watching the YouTube players or their pro days. Sorry, I'm distracted. Watching their pro days is kind of where I wanted to see them here. So, I'm looking at the State of the U, which is out of Miami. They have Rousseau as a top 15 overall pick, which we hit on him, but this goes back to November of 2020. So you can see how highly touted he was then. But with Roche, they're saying 1 to 2. Do you think he sneaks up into the first based on what you guys see?
Honestly, no.
Or do you think he sneaks way back?
I honestly think he's going to drop. I could see him going late day 2, or one of the first few picks in round 4.
Yeah,
you could tell
I would agree, 3 and 4.
You could tell that this article's biased too. But they're saying, let's see, he had 35 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 1 pass deflection. That was Roche. Let's see, that was okay. Impressive game action. Okay. Junior season at Temple, he had 13 sacks. So you're right. He's kind of one of those, what type of player do you get, and I kind of like those ones that have a huge production, either at one school that they transferred from, or, they do have that breakout year. God, I don't have an answer for you on that one, guys. I gotta do some more research on those two. Like I said, I haven't been watching too much of the defensive line just because of, kind of the guys that we already had. And you just don't know what you have with them. So I touted the linebackers and the secondary for sure. That's where I knew we had holes, and I looked at that for sure. So that's where I'm going to do my homework from now on. So
sounds good.
Now I have another edge rusher that probably not very many people know about, just like I said about Snowden, is Ellerson Smith from Northern Iowa. I know it's a small school. I don't even know what conference they play in, whether or not that's FCS or FBS. But he reminds me a lot of Quincy Roche. He stayed there his entire career, but he was consistent, in my opinion. He was consistent with his sacks, with his tackles. He has speed to him. He's able to get to the quarterback pretty fast. So I wanted to find out if you knew about him and if you've ever heard about him.
I did hear about him when they posted his RAS score, and it was off the charts for a guy his size. I'm going to see if I can find it here just to throw some of the numbers. Ellerson Smith, RAS. Where'd it go? Yeah, he scored a 9.87 out of 10. That's nuts. It really is. He ranked 18 out of 1,333 from 1987 to 2021. So you could tell that his score is is pretty good here. Well, was he 6'5", 6'6"? He's a big dude, I remember.
Yeah, honestly, I think he's even like 6'7", 6'8".
Is he?
Yeah.
The Pistons may want him.
Yeah, no joke. I'm just pulling up his numbers here. His draft profile says 6'6.5", close enough. 262 pounds. His wingspan is nuts, 83 inches. So yeah, get that guy there. Even if he can't get the push, he could throw his hands up.
Exactly.
10.5-inch hands, 33.25-inch arms. Yeah. Dude's a freak. Fires off the snap. He shows flexibility and plays with excellent pad level. See, those are the things that you want to look at, the athleticism that they have, how they can fire off on here. I want to pull up his score because I wanted to see his 3-cone here. And I haven't been in my draft, I guess, prospecting and seeing what some of these guys do. I haven't, I don't want to play that because that's going to make some noise here. Although that would be fun to throw some highlights onto some of these videos later too. But, where is his RAS score? It's not showing now, but at any rate, yeah, when you start seeing like the 3-cone and the shuttles that they have and things like that, it just shows how quickly they can move. What's their reaction? What's their flips? What's their, the flip drill at with the cornerbacks and safeties and things. Just see how they can rotate. Just shows their athleticism. This guy's saying for the negatives, this is on the Pro Football Network. They're saying his negatives are, and there's not many here, displays average strength. Okay. At the point of attack and gets controlled by a single blocker or annihilated at the point of attack. Okay. Define annihilated. And then struggled against the run in 19. So what did he do in 18? And, that's the stuff that they don't show you. I'm all for the athleticism. I think you're going to see this coaching staff is all for the athleticism. So I like those small school guys too, because they care more. They had to work for where they got with their scholarships if they got some. You see those walk-ons usually just tear it up even more. So I'm a fan of those small school guys. Like Kenny Galladay, I'll go back a couple years ago. I didn't know Kenny Galladay when we drafted him. Had no clue. And I think a lot of everybody did when they're third round. You're like, who? So then I went and looked at some highlights and I went, okay, So yeah, these small school guys, I'm glad that you're bringing them up because I think there's some really good potential in this draft.
Are there any players that you have your eye on, whether it's in the front 7 or in the secondary that we haven't mentioned yet?
Yeah, there was a guy similar build out of Baylor, Bradley King. That's his last name. He's got a lot of that same size. I think he's 6'7" and some change. Lighter frame, but again, that large wingspan that can get the hands up. A lot of the things that they said with him is, it depends on where you read, is he takes plays off here and there. Okay, that's the stuff that you kind of want to go, okay, what is your true drive? Now, you see that the guys get closer to the NFL, they want to play. They're going to get into this stuff. So, but what do you get in year 2 and year 3 is kind of where I wonder with some of those guys. So he's one. There was another guy out of, it's escaping me. I need my notes here in front of me. I don't have them, but the cornerbacks all over the board. You brought up the Georgia kids, Eric Stokes. I mean, yeah, he might be in the first day or two. pick, not the first day, but day 2 pick. With his speed, what he run, a 4.2 something, and he can also cover. So, I like him. I like pretty much everybody in the back secondary at UCF. I like the guys at both guys out of Washington. Couple small school guys, the kid out of Kentucky, Joseph, I like him. He's got some good ball skills there. Is it Wade out of Ohio State?
Yeah.
Safety. What do you think of him? I haven't
love
watched a
Wade.
lot with him.
It's
I
a
mean, I
love-
know you're gonna love everybody on the Ohio State defense. I get that. I mean, I'm partial to McGrone, and I'm Quiddy Pay and all those guys too. But for real, I mean, is he somebody that you could look at as one of those late round guys that can fly around like Diggs can, or Diggs could, or ball hawker? What type of player is he?
To keep it simple, no.
Okay.
I think he would be better served out of the slot and not as an outside cornerback. I think he got burnt too much. He allows too much room when he's in coverage. So because of that, he's not one to go and get physical with you right off the line.
Okay.
He's going to try to use his athleticism after that to either jar the ball out or to just make sure you get tackled. So I think those are my hesitancies with him. I would be intrigued to see about Ambry Thomas from Michigan. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I like him. He's got some good ball skills. He's got some good instincts as well. That's exactly who I was looking up here. I wanted to get his size because I don't have that on. I think he could play outside, but I think you're going to probably see him on the inside as well. And one of those guys that if somebody needs to, if he needs to spell a guy out, once or twice on the outside, that's cool too. But his ball skills are good. I think his instincts are very, very good. It's just one of those things that, is he better in man? Is he better in zone? He plays pretty well with man. How does the zone go? What is our defense going to do? Is it going to switch between the two quite a bit? So those are the scary parts with the corners that in the late rounds, you need to know what you're talking about. But Ambry Thomas, let me get him real quick here just to make sure I'm telling you the right stuff. But based on what I see, I'm going to go back to the Pro Football Network here. I put a plug into them a little bit. It's showing he's 5'11", 7'8", so you could pretty much call him 6 foot, 189 pounds. Wingspan's pretty long. He's got a 76.5-inch wingspan. So he's one of those guys that can get his hand on a few there. He opted out last season, so I think that might hurt him a little bit, just like a lot of these guys. I think, one, you're going to ask the question, so is football really not that important to you? But I think everybody understands the whole pandemic and their rights to be able to do that. So, that's one where I think you'll see some teams ask, like, well, why didn't you play? There were protocols, there were this, there was that, but it'd be interesting to see kind of be a fly on the wall with some of those interviews when they talk to these guys. But yeah, his ball skills, I think, is the biggest. And with limited turnovers that we've seen over the last countless years, I think you need somebody who can go get that ball and flip it back over to the offense. And he's one of those guys that you can. He reminds me a little bit of Lewis a couple years ago coming out. So Jordan Lewis, not huge by any means. I think actually he's taller than Jordan Lewis. I think Jordan Lewis was probably 5'9", 5'10", I think. So, or Jordan Lewis was smaller than him. And I think he has better ball skills. Now his speed, I think, I don't know what he ran, but he did get beat at times. But it's one of those things at corner, you look at some of the negatives, they're saying that he's hesitant. Well, corner is a tough position to play because you have to anticipate. And if you anticipate the wrong thing, of course you're going to hesitate a little bit. So, and then his tackling, I think there was some things where he'd try to arm tackle or try to, drag him down at times, but his ball skills are undeniable. Just with pass deflections, even if he's not getting the turnovers himself, he could create those just by flipping it up in the air. So he'd be somebody that I'd look for. I think he's projected right now in the 5th, but he could work his way up. Depends on where you go, what you're doing, what you need.
Yep.
You asked the question if there's anybody else that I've been really looking for. No, honestly, in the late rounds, I've been looking at offense, but that's me. I fall in love with some of those late round receivers. because we know that receiver is a big need at this team. And I think I focus most of my time looking at those. Okay, you may not hit home on these, top 5, 6, 7 pass catchers through Nico Collins type stuff, but who are these smaller school guys, these other guys that have put up some beefy numbers and can actually run and are very athletic and can high point the ball and can be physical, could separate is the biggest thing. So I always look at those guys at this point. So the guys that you hit on were a lot of guys that I looked at, but the deeper round stuff and the smaller school stuff, no, I need to go back and look at those for sure.
Well, once again, I think the speed on the defense and what we're trying to do there, I think is the exact same thing for especially our wide receivers. You already hit the nail on the head in regards to separation. We have not been able to get away and separate from the secondary for our wide receivers. So I am very intrigued to see with the the players that we have signed, can Brashawn Perriman get us a career back? Can you have who's the other one?
Williams.
Williams be able to go and do well. He had a career year a couple of years ago. You also have if you want to say special teamers, very small guys, but very quick, kind of like Kevin Toney from Florida. So it'll be interesting to go and see if they continue to look at the speed, because they already know that they don't always prioritize the measurements, the numbers per se, but rather what can you do in certain situations.
Yeah, and I think you got to look at that on the defensive side too. A lot of times people are wanting those bigger corners, the 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2" type corners, but some of these smaller guys that, might be 5'9", they play it with their their sky jump, I'm going to call it. I mean, they can get up there and they can play. And some of these guys, they may have longer arms than they do height. So it's just one of those things that you have to look at all aspects of it. And if they can be sticky to a hip to a receiver, you can't discredit these guys, especially if they have those ball skills, So, I don't have any more on the draft as far as prospects go, but I just look at this thing like, are we going to trade back and get as many as we can get and try to stock up on a lot of these guys that we had talked about? Maybe not these names, but these types of players in the later rounds.
Yeah, I think that would be I think that's the fans' perspective of it, being able to go and get as many picks and really build through the draft. I think it's going to be who's available when it comes up to us, and if we're able to find that second person to go and make a trade. You heard the phrase "takes two to tango." Yep. Last year we weren't able to make it happen. This year, could we? Time will tell.
Well, and you bring up last year. You look at last year, there wasn't a ton of movement. And we mentioned last week that, a month before the draft, or 5 weeks before the draft, you've got one of the bigger moves of the draft already. So I think this is going to be an aggressive back and forth. Who's going to get what based on what they know now. And being allowed to do your pro days at your own home field has really helped these prospects out. I think it takes the stress away. I think the stress of having to go to the combine and be focused on everybody kind of high pointing you way up in the stands and clocking you. And you don't have your coach on the field. You don't have your, supporting cast of your players outside of maybe your position group that might be trying out as well, or going through the combine as well. But to be able to have that support group, I mean, you look at some of those videos of the guys doing the bench press. You watch the one with Sewell. I think he put up, I don't remember, it was close to 30, but just the energy that those guys brought into the room with them to get those 6, 7, 8 more reps, let's say. So you're really seeing the true athleticism now, to where before some of these guys might have fallen off the radar with these coaches because they ran a 4.5 instead of a 4.43, whatever. Or they were able to put up 8 more reps on the bench press. So now they can bust through the line because they put up 8 more, you know what I mean? That sort of stuff. So how much stock is actually put into those combine numbers, and what does it attribute to this year, being able to be in your own comfort zone or at different fields, different surfaces, different, the quarterbacks all unleashed, I think they all help their stock. So it's just, I think this is going to be an aggressive year, and I hope we're part of it. I really do. I hope we're not getting people, you sit back and watch these trades move these teams move and get the players that they need and actually work out. But they always seem to leapfrog us, and grab that player. Or, we may move and not get the player that you were hoping for, that might have been available at that point. So I'm really kind of interested and intrigued to see how this management staff actually did their homework, what they've got, what they want, and actually go get these guys. Let's be aggressive if we need to. Do I want you to take 7 and move up to 1 and get Lawrence? No. But if it did, what do you do? It's one of those, well, hey, they went aggressive. They're invested. They're going to take this guy and they're going to roll with him. Bad idea, in my opinion, but I just hope they can be, I guess, ballsy like that and get the guy that they want versus waiting to see if he'll fall.
Yep. No, I couldn't say it better. And it's going to be very intriguing to go and see not only what the Lions do, but what the rest of the NFL does. Like you said, being able to be at the combine, you're able to see them there. Well, now you're spreading out your coaching staff and your scouting team and relaying back messages after their pro days, and even sometimes going down a second time because you were at someone else's pro day and you would like to go and see them throw or just even participate in general. So I think it's going to be very intriguing to go and see what's the first reach. I think it was last year or 2 years ago where the Raiders drafted somebody where you're all like, wait, what? Like they drafted him so early.
Yeah.
And they had their mindset and their reasons why, but who's going to be that first reach? Who's going to make that first draft day trade to be able to move up or move back? Could be the Lions, could be somebody else before us. So it'll be interesting.
I would probably be willing to put a bunch of money. I'm not going to say that because somebody will hold me to it. I would be willing to bet something that the Lions either draft a 7 or trade back. I don't see them moving forward at all in this. So could they? Sure. Would they? Would I be upset? Maybe, just because, like I said, my argument earlier with the gentleman that I was talking to is the fact that I want to be greedy in this draft. I want to get as many picks as we can without, I guess, sacrificing too much, if you will. So, I mean, if there's a guy that you want to get in the 3rd round, go get him. I feel a little less, I feel more safe doing that than I do in the 1st round. I don't think you need to go up to get your guy because I think, like you said before, it's going to play out very well to what we want. And we're going to have either our choice at 7 and hopefully somebody else's choice at 7, because then they can come up and give us all their draft picks. So I'll take them all. That's fine. So, but yeah, what did you guys get a chance to see the Inside the Den video yet?
Yes.
That was pretty cool. What does that make you think more of Mr. Campbell?
Honestly, I already knew he was a motivator from the Kneecap press conference way back in the beginning. But now that just makes me, honestly, it makes me even more motivated as a fan. I know I'm only 21. I've only been watching it for so many years, but honestly, throughout the NFL, I've never seen a coach this dedicated to just a city, to the fans. He, like, you can tell in his voice, in his facial expressions, in his eyes, how dedicated he is to the city of Detroit. And he only played there for what, 3-4 seasons?
Yeah, I don't think it was very long. I think one of them he was on IR right away.
And it just goes to show that in those 3-4 seasons, we made an impact in him. And the fact that this is the only job that he wanted this offseason. It just shows that he wants to be there, and it shows that we wanted him there with a 6-year contract. But it just shows that he wants to bring a winning organization back to Detroit, because we haven't had it for a long time. He wants to bring us back to the playoffs. He wants to get us that playoff win to end that drought. He wants us to do what we haven't been able to do through the NFL, is go to the Super Bowl. Honestly, I think I know he's not an X's and O guy, like he already said. He's going to be one hell of a motivator, and I think he's going to bring the best out of each and every player on our team.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think not just him, I think his whole staff can do that as well. And, you look at the joy that they had when they saw Goff, and that's just part of my, I'm not saying Goff is going to be our savior by any means, just because he went to a Super Bowl, and we all know it takes more than just a quarterback to get there. Are they a big factor? Absolutely, they drive the bus, but there's a lot of people on there that can, derail that bus from getting there. So, but you look at the coaching staff, that the way that they presented themselves to Goff, because it's kind of neat to be able to get into these things. I don't want to promote us being on HBO and all that stuff. I mean, I do maybe, but at the same time, it's one of those things that it's a rare look that we don't get. And to be able to see that, and the look and the dedication on their face, it wasn't somebody who was covering up saying, yeah, we're going to draft quarterback 7. They still may, I don't know, but they played it off pretty well, because I mean, they were truly excited for what he could bring. We don't know if he's going to suck. We don't know if he's going to be the best player in the world, because he's never played in this offense. He's never played with these coaches. He's never been coached by Mark Brunell. I'm not saying Brunell's the best in the world, but I'm just saying these are all new points. One, he's got a chip on his shoulder. I would, because I'm 26-year-old. I just took you to the Super Bowl, in my opinion, in my head. That's me being Goff and going, well, wait a minute. Now you're giving up on me. What the heck's going on? Just because maybe a defense has figured your offense out. I mean, I'm going to throw that out there, but maybe the defense has finally figured out how to play McShay, or McVay. Sorry. I just think it's a good situation to be in this year. And, you guys have said it. We'll look at it next year. We'll be next year. Yep. Lions fans are always, let's look forward to next year. This is that year. I think I'm looking forward to the next 3 years, because this is going to be fun. It's going to be frustrating. Yeah, we're not going to win. I mean, we may sneak out some wins, but I'm expecting to lose with some of these players. I'm expecting it. I was a homer and picked them to win in every game. That's just me. But I expect them to lose a lot of games this year. That's a tough schedule. It really is. It is a very tough schedule. One thing that we may want to hit on later on here, once we know, our defense a little bit and some of the players that come in and all that stuff. But it's going to be a tough year to struggle through this, but it's going to be fun to be able to watch and how they coach, and really truly believe, that they can bring their true personality to their coaching. And I think we'll be able to see that. I mean, these are genuine people. What other coach is going to give a hat to these line workers and say, hey, sign my hat, please, because this is cool. So I don't know. I mean, I might be reading too much into a video, but I just think that it's a whole different era of Lions football that we're about to see. So.
No, I think you both put it very well. Coach Campbell, I think, had the privilege of playing here, so he understands the city. He understands the struggles that we have gone through, and he wants to embody this community and make it better. Just like his players, he wants to empower them to go and play better on the field, and to equip them, and overall just make them better each and every week. I think that's like you said, the entire staff is going to be doing that, from Coach Campbell overall, especially with the tight ends. Then you have Deuce Staley, who is going to help our running game so much and expand what Swift can do. You have Antoine Randall, who was a freakish athlete and did a lot, not only in his playing career, but also with the wide receivers he's been able to go and coach.
Yeah, you talk about
Exactly. You talk about Pheasant and Glenn being able to really coach up our defense. Our defense was awful last year, but let's go and see what happens when you coach them the right way, and it's not so confusing and difficult to understand. Let's go and make sure that, they're able to have fun as well. And I think you're right that I don't think we're going to win that many games this coming season. But you know what? They're going to compete. And I hope that we are able to get rid of that SOL, the same old Lions. And you know what? Hey, there's going to be a different toughness about them. There's going to be a different competitive edge about them. And you know what? They're going to go and give it their all each and every time they hit the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe we can look at Dan Campbell as an SOL too, where he saved our Lions. You know what I mean? And just kind of I don't know. I agree with you 100%. I think this is just a different era. I haven't been this excited about a coach since we hired Steve Mariucci. You know what I mean? It's like, who got a bad rap, in my opinion. I really love Booch. But this is a different feel. I mean, all across the board, different feel. Even down to special teams. I don't know enough about FIP, but he's kind of out there with his eyes. He's pushing what's his face, the coach there out of the Jets and Dolphins, Adam Gase to the crazy eye championship title there. But it'll be interesting to see what we do with our special teams as well. It's a completely different unit outside of Muehlbach. I mean, you still have Fox, who's pretty young, but you're going to have a new kicker there. You've got new coverage going down the field that I don't think we've actually seen the entirety of special teams at this point, because a lot of those helper special teamers we've already let go. I mean, Christian Jones was on special teams. Jared Davis was playing special teams. We lost, I think D Version was on special teams. A couple safeties were on special teams. So it's going to be a whole new look there. So I think that's going to be your wild card, because I think they can win you some games as well. Very competitive. I think they will be. I think, they're going to have their blowouts probably once or twice here, but I think for the most part, they're going to be a competitive team, and they're going to be fun to watch. I really do. And you're going to see the coaching staff grow each week as well. They're going to learn how they coach together, what they can do. I mean, Anthony Lynn has head coaching experience. He's going to bring a lot to that team. He knows his role, but he's going to bring a lot to that team. And I just hope it's one of those things to where you start seeing these plays that nobody's seen before, or the trust in some of these players that we haven't seen over the last 4 years. There was no trust placed on any of those players that we had. So my humble opinion there.
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely agree. And like you guys have already said, we're not going to be exceptional. We're not going to win the NFC North. We're not going to go to the playoffs. And the only thing I want to see is improvement. I want to see improvement as an overall team. Of course, we already know that the defense last year was god awful. You can't put into words how bad that was. It broke records for being as bad. And the thing is, I just want to see improvement. I want to see more fire under their asses, wanting to go after and continue fighting each and every play, going after the quarterback, going after the running back. Maybe we're in the top 20 to 32 somewhere, just like show some improvement overall. And that, like you guys already said, it starts with the coaching staff. And another thing is, I'm not going to say don't blame Goff for what the offense may look like, because right now, outside of Hawkinson and Swift, we really don't have a true number one receiver, and we don't have a speedy receiver. Perriman, I think he's past his prime. His speed is long gone ever since he got drafted, honestly. I think this is just a safety to help us out at the wide receiver position. But that's why I'm telling the people on Twitter, I'm like, you got to give him a chance. You can't just let him, like for Okuda, you can't just judge him after one season. So for the same thing for Goff, you can't bash him for not doing well when he doesn't even have a true number one or number two receiver outside of a running back and a tight end. And there's not much you can do with that, because you really can't. So give him, like you said, 2 to 3 years. Let this offense go ahead and improve over that, especially through the draft. And then let's go ahead and judge Jared Goff. But I just want to see improvement. Of course, we don't have Stafford anymore, which is a huge loss. But Goff has a different way about going the offense. And I think he's got different skills that will help us. He's, like you said, he's younger. But just show improvement. That's all. That's all I'm thinking about, is just improvement.
Yeah, and I think you can. I think you're going to see that just from the energy alone. I mean, you hit on it. That defense can't get any worse. I mean, it can, but the placement of that defense can't get any worse. I mean, it was dead last in probably every category. The offense, I think you're going to see, is going to be something we're not used to. It may surprise us here and there, but it's just going to be something new that we're not used to. I'm a fan of the run and gun. I'm a fan of getting that power running going, and which will open up the play action. I'm a big fan of that. A lot of people think that's boring football because it's run. But if you're getting, 4, 4.5 yards per play, that's awesome football in my mind, because that offensive line is opening it up. And then you can hit them with the play action pass to those guys that maybe, like you said, Sam, they're not the speedy guys anymore, but they are a deep threat. So they do have one speed, maybe not shifty speed, but have that deep threat ability to where you can throw it up and over. I agree with you. I want that twitchy receiver, that Golden Tate type receiver, a Danny Amendola receiver that can turn on the Jets. That's the kind of guy I want to see in this offense, because I think that player can actually, I think, thrive in this offense. I think with the play action pass and being able to separate like that. So that's what I hope to see. And I think just putting those pieces together is what I think will be a successful season this year. Will the record show up worse? I can't tell you. I haven't looked, game by game yet, but we don't know. I don't even know how you could predict a schedule right now. Just with, you don't know what's there. So you start seeing this like we can with some of the training camp videos they put out, or practice videos, things like that. We might have a better idea based on what they show, or reading in on some of, some of the beat writers and what they can actually legally put out there. But yeah, I agree. I think the offense might take a step back just because there's going to be unfamiliarity with what we think. But I think that defense is going to look, I can't say hand over fist better, but I think they'll be much better than last year. So that's kind of where I sit on that too. So is there anything else that we might have missed in this episode? I know we kind of transitioned from the defensive side of the draft, kind of flipped over to the offense a little bit, and then ended up with the coaching staff. But is there anything else that you're looking forward to maybe in the coming weeks here? Obviously, the draft is, coming up rapidly. I think, 20 days away? Just a ballpark figure there.
Yep. And
So,
we're looking forward to going down there as well, or over there rather, to Cleveland. So that's the
nice.
plan. That's the hope. At least be around the festivities and maybe hit some of the Cleveland bars and be able to get the type of feel that's going to be going on there. Because, hey, you have an in-person draft. You're able to enjoy the town and the community. It'll be fun.
Sorry, I got an interruption here. Your backpack.
Yeah.
Your backpack's in the dining room.
Oh.
Okay, have fun. Go find it. Sorry about that. Bedtime. But yeah, I agree. I think that's going to be electric because last year was so lackluster. They didn't have the draft parties. They had the draft TVs in the background. So I think that's just going to be fun. And if you can get there, man, I mean, I know if I could get down there, it'd be a blast, and we can do this podcast thing the right way with some live coverage. That'd be great. But obviously, if we can get you guys there, and I'm stuck at home watching TV, I'm okay with that too. So, but just to feel that energy, I'm looking forward to that too. So it'll be interesting to see what they do this year.
Correct.
So,
Do you have any suggestions for the next episode?
I think maybe we kind of, yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? We've kind of hit a lot in the last two.
We have. I just suggested to Sam right before we got on about potentially doing our own mock draft, alternating picks and stuff, and being able to just no trades wise, but just straight up picking. And maybe we can include a couple other people, maybe from other teams, or whatever, just involve it a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. I think we could maybe do, what do you want to do? Just like a first round?
Yes.
Okay, because that would be hours and hours of fun if we wanted to do a 7-rounder. But yeah, I like that idea. I really do. Maybe is it something you want to do kind of like a round table draft? Do you want to just say, hey, this is my mock, your mock, his mock type thing? How would you see it?
I'm open to suggestions. It could be via Zoom, and we have the board, and we just go around in basically a circle. We could bring our own mocks and just talk about it. Could involve a couple other people who may be NFL fans for other teams, and see, hey, what are you looking at? Players it could be whatever we wanted to make.
Sounds like we just made 2 episodes. I think if you guys agree, I think the first episode, what we do is we bring our first round mock draft based on what we can decipher, whether it's TV, internet, whatever, get on there, take a look at what these teams might do. We could discuss that amongst ourselves and grab whoever else we might want to throw on here. And then maybe the episode after that, we do a live mock, kind of like a Lions Lounge mock. And we'll just go, okay, Sam, you've got first pick. Jack, you've got next pick. I've got next pick, and just kind of go down the line and just rotate that through and see where we end up.
Yeah,
and maybe we can do that as a league or the Lions.
Yeah, I
Or
like
both.
that.
So, yeah, I like that too. Let's jump on Twitter. Basically, is kind of our key way to a lot of the Lions fans at this point. But maybe we jump on Twitter and throw that out there and just see who might want to join in. On Zoom, we can add quite a few. I just don't know, what might be too much. Maybe we add 2 people if we can, or 1. And then just get the 4 of us going or whatever and go from there. So maybe we reach out to a couple of those guys and see if they want to do that. Set up a time and a date and go.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, definitely agree.
Awesome. Well, guys, I appreciate your time tonight. Obviously, you see I've got the 5-year-old running around wanting to know where his backpack is, which I don't know why. It's Friday night. Who cares where your backpack is, kid? So, but I guess I'll go tag along with them and see what's going. But I appreciate you guys stopping into our lounge. It's a comfy lounge. And then hopefully we can get some of this rolling with some of these other guys, because I think it'd be fun to and girls out there to see their take on the Lions this year.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Again, as always, go Lions.
Oh yeah,
Go
one
Lions.
pride.
One pride. Take care, guys.
See ya.